Day 2 of BC's Public Health Officer Dr. Bonnie Henry versus medical freedom took place in the Supreme Courthouse in Victoria today, and you're about to see what happened. The challenge to BC's discriminatory vaccine passport, brought to you by the Democracy Fund and funded by our generous Rebel News supporters who donated at Fight Vaccine Passports today, just ended. It was a 2-day hearing. You can catch out what happened in day 1 in the linked article below. It seemed like it went really well, but we will not know, at least for a little while, especially since there's 2 more challenges to be heard of similar nature. I've already reported on the first case, a challenge to a vaccine passport brought to you by the Canadian Constitution Foundation. And then again, this one was the second one, and there's 2 more to come up. Is it a good thing that they're all lumped together? Who knows? It's the same justice who's going to be ruling. So there is an opportunity for the justice to find a flaw in one case and draw it into his decision for all of them. But we're going to keep our fingers crossed. I'm going to show you an interview with one of the 3 plaintiffs who were discriminated for not being able to take the vaccine, and also to one of the top-notch lawyers that you brought to help represent these plaintiffs in court. All right, this is attorney William Cates from JSS Barrister, one of the Part 2 Dream Team that was in court today. Your colleague, Robert Hawkes, was in there as well. So this is day 2. The hearing has been heard. What's your thoughts coming out of the courtroom?
More than anything, just the opportunity to be heard. We had a chance to, it's been 7 months since the vaccine card orders were put in place, and we had an opportunity today over the last 2 days to speak our piece and to be heard. And so there was a mootness argument at one point, and whether or not we would be allowed to proceed because the vaccine card orders have been lifted, and we were allowed to proceed, and we've been heard. So.
Now, this is the second of 4 challenges. One has already been heard. That was sort of a more similar challenge to this one. And then there's 2 other ones. And the same justice is hearing all 4 of those. What does that look like? Is that a good or a bad thing, would you say?
I think there's a few pieces of it. Most importantly is that it's that these challenges are being heard. And so there are 4 of them. One of them was heard a couple weeks back, and there are 2 more to go. Essentially, they're different groups challenging the same thing, different petitioners challenging the same thing, and to speak about their cases. The unfortunate side effect is that we're not there. We don't get a chance to speak up at those hearings, but we were able to say for our petitioners, for the 3 petitioners that we represent, we were able to speak on their behalf in the last 2 days.
One of the things that Chief Justice Hinkson brought up and sort of questioned over the 2 days was the fact that unvaccinated workers can, make your food and deliver it to you in the restaurant, but they can't be patrons. What's your thoughts on the response from the government's lawyer, Julie Gibson's, and how you guys responded to that?
I think our response is the focus and the belief of the petition was that the vaccine card orders were predominantly a instrument to persuade people to get vaccinated, and that's always been our position. And so the arguments of that discrepancy in whether or not the safety of unvaccinated versus vaccinated is a question of the weight that should be given to our argument versus theirs. Mm-hmm.
Well, Chief Medical Health Officer from the Vancouver Coastal Health, Dr. Patty Daly, said this in a meeting before.
The vaccine passport requires people to be vaccinated to do certain discretionary activities, such as go to restaurants, movies, gyms. Not because these places are high risk. We're not actually seeing COVID transmission in these settings. It's really to create an incentive to improve our vaccination coverage.
And that was brought up a lot in court about whether or not the vaccine passports are put in place simply to up vaccination status rather than about transmission. And Justice Hinkson questioned what her authority is to speak on such a matter. And then there was sort of a back and a forth about that. So what is your position on that?
Essentially, the position is that the orders delegate some authority to the medical health officers, and essentially that is what Justice Hinkson is going to have to determine, essentially how much authority is placed for that particular argument.
Well, you guys came all the way out from Alberta to do this, and you did a good job. We'll have to wait and see what the outcome is. Any last words for Canadians who are just tuning into this about why a case like this matters?
I'd say the importance of a case like this is the courts have an ability there. It's a checks and balance for the government. It's to ensure that the government is actually following the rules that have been put in place. And challenges like this it's difficult to bring a challenge like this, and it shouldn't be. And so the importance of having this opportunity to be heard and having this opportunity to make a difference we're hopeful to see what happens.
All right. This is one of the 3 brave plaintiffs in the case that were represented today. I just said to you, same with our stories on the other side of the story with COVID. It takes a lot to be able to tell your story, but it's so important for the public. What are you feeling? It's over. You came to this point. You just came out. What's your thoughts?
I'm overwhelmed in many different ways, and I'm emotional. I'm grateful that I'm here and was given this opportunity and this chance to speak out about what's happened to me and countless other people.
What's your comments or your feelings towards who you were represented by, the counsel that the Democracy Fund brought for you to fight for this case?
Oh, they're wonderful. Just wonderful people. And I just felt like they heard every one of my experiences. They heard my concerns. They heard they unlike the government, where I was treated as a number or the unvaxxed or the whatever it is, right? Because I'm not. I'm the medically unable. I got it's such a parallel between being treated like a nameless person, and then with our team, it was I'm a person and my experiences matter, and what I went through mattered. So that it's just in a time where you really do start to feel like you don't matter. They were wonderful.
Well, again, thank you so much for sharing your story and being willing to bear it all in order to stand against discrimination in Canada.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone who helped make this possible. There's just no words to express how grateful I am. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, there was a lot that went down in court. Again, you can check the written article in the description below. One of the favorite quotes I have was from JSS barristers Robert Hawks, who said, you shouldn't have to go to court to go to the gym. Isn't that the truth? Special thanks to the amazing lawyers, William Cates and Robert Hawks from JSS Barristers, locking arms with the Democracy Fund and our generous Rebel News supporters at FightVaccinePassports.com. The Democracy Fund spent thousands of dollars to make sure this important fight for medical freedom in Canada took place. But none of that would be possible if generous donors like yourself are not continuing to donate at FightVaccinePassports.com. Like I said, there's many other vaccine-related cases that the Democracy Fund is still taking on, and we need all the help that we can get to make those continue to go strong. So please continue to donate what you can at FightVaccinePassports.com. Let's set a new precedent so that medical discrimination isn't the norm here. Not a penny goes to Rebel News. It all goes to cover the legal fees and expenses for important cases, just like what you just learned about today.